Okay, then welcome to Internet Land. If you are watching, we are about to play The Outsiders. It is a kind of like a Descended for the Queen game is one way to describe it, although it's influenced by a number of other games. So we're about to start, and before we do, this is obviously part of Gauntlet Con 2019. So I would like to first go through our little roster here, and we will introduce ourselves. We'll just give like our name and our pronoun. If you want, you can give one thing you're excited for around this weekend. It could be GauntletCon related or not. And then after that, we'll just dive into it. Like I said, the game will teach itself, and then we'll just play. Cool. So I'll start first. My name is Tomer or Tones. I use he, him pronouns. And separate from GauntletCon, I'm actually very excited to take my daughter to go see a movie later today. We're going to go see Jojo Rabbit. That's it. So that's me. And then I'll choose who goes next. And then that way, and of course, you will choose the next person down the track. Let me start with Libby.
Hi, I'm Libby. My pronouns are she and her. And I'm excited for Fight with Spirit, which is like an anime sports game. I'm playing that later tonight.
That's awesome. And that's by the Haley V duo of Story Brewers, right?
Yep, that's them.
Cool. Who are you going to call on next?
Selene?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Selene, pronouns she, her, and also they. Today I'm excited for, a book that I put on hold at the library came in, so I'll visit that sometime after this game. It's a young adult book called Enchanters from the Stars, kind of shades of Star Trek. There's an advanced civilization that follows a prime directive of trying not to interfere with less developed planets, but of course ends up having to interfere anyway.
Oh, I've heard of that book.
That sounds cool. I like it. Who are you going to call on next?
How about Will?
Hi there. I'm Will. My pronouns are he, him. Thank you for having me. I am excited for Become One, Protect the Pilot, which I'll be playing later today, which looks like it is taking some of the interesting mechanics from Bluebeard's Bride, but using them in a setting that is less difficult to get to the table.
Cool. That sounds awesome. I don't know if there's a way for you to change your volume level. I know it's coming out like a little bit kind of loud or echoey. Not too loud, but like it's workable if you can't. I don't know.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Cool.
Pick someone to go next.
Olivia.
Can you see me? Hear me? Is it?
Yes, both.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm Olivia Montoya, she, her pronouns, and I'm excited to be working on a game of my own right now. Like, I have a whole bunch of cool ideas that have sort of crystallized in the past few days, and I really want to get a chance to write them down. And I also, at the same time, am working on an RPG zine to trade at Metatopia that's based on things you can do in games with paint chips.
I am very intrigued to hear more about that. With paint chips, you said, right?
Yep, paint chips.
Okay. Yeah, we will talk. No, that sounds awesome. And I think you have to Zach. I think, Zach, you're the only one left. Am I right?
Yep, the last we picked. It's like the gym class all over again. Yeah, sorry. Zach pronounced he, him, and what I'm excited for this weekend, well, my whole weekend is booked with Gauntlet Con, so a session I'll be playing tomorrow. What was it called? storm playing something like that. We'll be designing a game while playing it, and the gist of it is that it will utilize over 100 characters, and I'm really intrigued how that whole process will work out and what solutions we'll figure out with like insane character count. Like, I hope it won't be a funnel, but either way, it should be cool.
That sounds very interesting. Yeah, wow, everyone's got such cool things going on. So I do have, oh, quick question. I'm hearing a little bit of like buzz every once in a while, like audio buzz. Is anybody else hearing that?
Oh, yeah,
No.
yeah.
I can hear it.
Yeah, I'm hearing it.
Okay. Who is not hearing it?
I'm not hearing it, so it might be me.
It might be you. But then I'm only going to ask if when you're not on mic, if you can mute. And that's something we try to do anyways, the rest of us. I have like the little mute button, which I'll forget to unmute. But when you're not on mic, that's one thing to try to do. That way, if you're eating or doing other stuff, it doesn't get in the way.
Okay, I guess I'll mute myself.
And I am not hearing that buzz anymore. So that's definitely coming from there, I think. But cool. Then I think we're ready to go. So I have the screen shared and we're going to have questions there. What I will do, and maybe I can do this in, yeah, I think I'll do it in alphabetical order because that way it's easier to remember. I'm going to put in the chat our reading order, okay? So it'll be Olivia. So normally when you play this game, you read clockwise on a table. That's very easy to see, but obviously in this case, you know, we don't really have our table. So the reading order will be what I am typing now, which is Libby, then Olivia, then Selene, then me, then Will, and then Zach. I think that's alphabetical, right?
Oh, Zoom was using the wrong microphone. How is this sounding?
Oh, that sounds a lot better.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. So yay. One audio problem down. All right, cool. Then does everybody see the chat window? I know sometimes you have to like click a button to bring it up or something, depending on how you...
I see it.
So you should see the list there and keep that chat window somewhere visible because when it's your turn, I'm going to send you a private message, which is the question cards. That's going to come later. For now, however, we're going to start at the top by just reading these cards. I'm just going to read the first one that's there, which is welcome friends and strangers alike to the outsiders. May you enjoy this time together. That is our message from our lovely game designer, Jay. But Libby, why don't I hand it off to you? And I'm going to flick through the cards. So you read the card and then I'll change it to the next one. And then the next person down the track will read.
Okay. To start gameplay, go around the table clockwise and take turns reading the instruction cards aloud.
So it's my turn now?
Yeah.
Okay. What this is, The Outsiders is a collaborative story game. As players, you will take on a dual role. You will play members of an outsider group who seek to be part of a larger, more established community.
Additionally, you will inhabit the role of the council who must vote to either accept or reject the outsiders. As the council, you will not develop specific personalities. Instead, you will merely express the thoughts and opinions of the community at large.
Answer the following questions together.
What group are we trying to join?
Oh, sorry, this is Will's. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
We're almost in full circle.
What group are we trying to join? Should I read the options or should we start deciding now?
I'll let you manage this card. Yeah. Decide how you
Okay. All right. So we have some options such as a superhero team, a cult or secret society, a walled city, a mech force, the assassin fighting club, but these are all prompts or possibilities. A school for elite animal companions.
Yeah, or we can make up our own.
I really like the School for Elite Animal Companions.
I am a big fan of magical schools. It's just like no matter how cliched it is, I really like that. Or superhero team.
Yeah, I'm in favor of superhero team. I don't really feel the magic school thing at all. I would also be in favor of walled city, like post-up walled city, just because I'm on a little streak here on Gauntlet.com playing post-apo games. It would be the third one.
Nice. What else? What about you, Libby?
I like a walled city or a school for elite animal companions. I like both of those. Like a walled city makes it sound like maybe like the rest of the world is in chaos, which would kind of make it, I don't know, kind of interesting. And it could have
This
like
is the
magical
stakes,
elements.
yeah?
Yeah.
Like, we are desperate to get there. The world has went to crap somehow, and we really want to get into the safety of the walls. And I think that'd be really cool, at higher stakes.
What do you think, Will?
A walled city certainly makes sense. If we didn't want a magical school, but a school for elite animal companions was still interesting, then it might be like a school for couriers or something like that, or couriers or assassins or druidic companions. There is something about a walled city that sounds entertaining. Though I'm wondering if it's more if we're thinking like Middle Ages walled city rather than say like a zombie apocalypse fort or something like that.
It's definitely one of the things that, and I already know the next couple cards that'll come up. So some of the questions that will come up will help us refine that a little bit. So what do you guys like? Who maybe? I know, Selene, you were excited about the magic school and like elite animal companions thing. I also know that I can probably get this game in your hands sooner than the rest of these people to play again. But are we open to doing maybe like the walled city thing? It sounds like there's a little bit of.
Yeah, I guess not. Well, I guess it comes up later,
Yeah.
but maybe not zombies if we're doing a walled city.
Fair.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, we could
Yeah,
still have
not
magic.
Yeah. I guess I don't want this to be like, if we don't get in, we're all gonna die. I guess it's my main sort of hesitation with a walled city, so that it should still be possible to survive without it, even if it won't be great, but not like, okay, you get in or else you die. I feel those stakes are a little too stark for me right now.
Maybe there's a great deal of prestige, power, or fortune in getting in the city.
Yeah, like maybe you can live like, sort of nomads outside the city, and it's a hard life, and people would really rather get into the city where there is, some basic facilities, some that would be considered luxuries in this day and age, and people really want to get there for this easier life, break from this struggle outside. It's not lethal to be outside, it's just worse than being inside.
Right.
Yeah, what does anyone else like the idea of like a floating Magitech city? Like that's the sort of idea that I was thinking of. Like it's sort of like walled. It's like you can't get to it like by normal means, but it's like got all sorts of like cool magic technology stuff, and it's nicer than life on the ground. Like airships.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's very. Yeah, that sounds evocative. I like it.
Cool, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think that kind of answers our rough question. I think that as much depth as we need, which is we've got a city that's kind of like mostly inaccessible. So we're saying a walled city, but we know that it means like it's up in the sky, it's hard to get to, and it's a place of prestige and maybe an easier life than what the rest of us have down here, right? So it's got that reputation. Cool. I'll move to the next card, and this will go to Zach. Oops, sorry. There we go.
Okay, what is the feel of our story? Serious, middle of the road, being a hybrid of serious and funny, silly, being farcical, whimsical, ridiculous, use a pencil and choose one of the following, then leave this at the center of the table for reference.
Which of course we won't exactly do here, but yeah,
Nah.
what do we think?
I'm honestly between serious and middle of the road. Like, I still want some stakes there, you know, that life on the ground isn't all fun and games, and that's why people want up to this you know, city of elites up in the sky. So yeah, middle of the road or serious for me.
Okay, what do you guys
I'm
think?
thinking middle. I'm thinking middle of the road. Like I want it to be like not super serious, but like have some lighthearted moments. And I'm thinking like ambition could be a reason for wanting to join the city in the sky. Like maybe it's like a place of leadership or like innovation.
Yeah, I also like middle of the road. I have a hard time being completely serious. So yeah, middle of the road would be good for me.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Cool. Then yeah, let's stick around middle of the road. We, you know, we're open to having some serious moments. We're kind of going to try to avoid going like silly gonzo, but you know, like humor is obviously fine, you know, or funny things that come up. I'm also down for that. I've played this game both very serious, but also like very, very silly. So it's good to make sure we're kind of on the same page. Okay, cool. So we'll stick middle of the road. We have some folks who are interested in a little more of a serious story, but middle of the road sounds like a good compromise. And I think it goes back to you, Libby.
Great. What motivates us? As the outsiders, why do we want to join the established community? As the established community, what's our motivation to accept new members?
Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we already talked a little bit about this, that it's like prestigious, but I don't think we haven't talked much about why the established community would want to accept new members, and I'm curious about people's thoughts on that.
I have an idea for that. Like I'm thinking that they've had some sort of intellectual stagnation where like they want to bring in people from other parts of the world to like bring in new ideas for like progress and leadership.
Yeah, I think it's like a place of, you know, higher learning, sort of magical development, pseudoscience, and they want new, you know, new blood to bring them some fresh ideas, move it, and they want people who can fit their standards, who can move them forward, and who won't, you know, be disturbing their order too much. Like they want some movement, not a revolution that will bring down the city and stuff.
Yeah, that's
There's
really
balance
great
for
because
them.
like it has to be like a source of conflict because like if the whole thing is that they're intellectually stagnant, then there has to be like an old guard that's like, we don't need any new people. Everything's totally fine.
Yeah, the city is torn between two poles. One that says, you know, we are the center of learning. We have these impossibly high standards, and we are sort of the trend makers and the speakers of knowledge. And then the other part is basically saying, well, if we're going to maintain that intellectual superiority, we need to gather people from below so that there doesn't become another pole of intellectual superiority.
Yeah, one side is like, we are the holders of knowledge and that's our privilege and that's our power. On the other side, yeah, but we need new people to share it and develop it and go forward, yeah?
Yeah, and if we don't do that, we risk, oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, continue, please.
Oh, but if we don't reach out to new blood, we risk losing our position of superiority.
Oh, and I also think that there are people who are like on the basically the people who are deciding whether we can come in, who were once from the ground level, from the world below, and they think that they should bring in other people to have this opportunity, but they're getting pushed back from like the old guard.
Okay. So I wrote this stuff down. So as a community, we want new ideas and new blood. We want to move our society forward, but without like revolution, for example. So a little bit of status quo. And we're kind of siphoning those below to make sure we keep our position of superiority, right? So it's kind of like a combination of those ideas. Am I missing anything?
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder if it might be partly there. Some of the technology that lets us be a flying city is duplicable, and we want to make sure anybody below ground who could is up with us instead.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, you buy your competition, yeah? You can
Yeah.
beat them, you join them, yeah?
Yeah, I use the word siphon for a reason. We're basically pulling whatever talents down there, as you guys said, so that we maintain kind of our status up here, right? As the council or the community. Okay. Cool. Now, notice it says, as the outsiders, why do we want to join? Like, obviously, as we're playing the game, our characters might have their own like specific motives. All that kind of stuff might come up. Like, we're going to play to, we're going to discover through play. But in general, like, the reason why most people want to join, as we said, was prestige, easier life. And as a community, we want to get the best of the best from down there to eliminate competition, to keep ourselves going, to get all the good ideas where we're at. Okay. Sorry, there we go.
I think this is me.
Yeah.
So what is the voting expectation? The council will vote to accept one outsider, reject one outsider, or accept all or no outsiders.
So as a group, we have to decide what our voting is going to be at the end of this game. Now, voting just says who does and doesn't get into the society. However, what it doesn't do is it doesn't say whether we survive or not or how our ending is. We still get to do our epilogues. So we'll get to see how this affects everyone, for good or bad, right? What do you guys think?
I think that for what we established already, reject one outsider would fit best. They want to appear exclusive, yes, but still bring all those clever people to themselves up there so they don't go make their own magical startup down there, That would be bad for business. So reject one guy who is the weakest there, still appear exclusive, but get all the smart people up to our hands.
And it could be when we say reject one, maybe we know as the community, we know that we have only enough space for a certain number of people. And, this group has one that exceeds that, right?
Oh, I have a cool idea.
Yeah.
What if they know that there are like revolutionaries who are trying to get into the city, and they know that there's at least one among the outsiders?
I like it.
And the
Anybody
whole
else?
thing is them trying to suss it out and psychological game. Okay, who is that? We have to find the bastard and we have to kick him out. Oh, that's nice. I like it.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think I like that. I think it has to be accept one or reject one. And the revolutionary element, yeah, could make it either one of those actually. Like, I guess it depends on like exactly how exclusive they are and how paranoid they are. I think either one of those could work.
Cool.
I like the call for reject one. I was circling around accept one, except that I couldn't explain what would happen if two really powerful scientists showed up. Do you have to turn one away just cause?
Yeah.
So reject one seems a little bit more in line with what we've established.
Okay.
And reject one is also making me think a bit of those reality shows, where somebody gets rejected each round.
Yeah, someone's not getting a rose.
I'm also thinking that these are people who have already been like recognized as like talents on the world below, but they know that there's someone on there who definitely doesn't fit the values of the old guard.
Right. Okay, so I put voting expectations as reject one, we want to be a little bit exclusive, right? But we're still keeping, like, trying to bring in a bunch of people, new blood, but also watching for revolutionary elements, right? Okay. Who are we at? Selene?
Yep.
No. Okay.
So place the X card at the center of the table. If at any point you feel uncomfortable with what is being said or done, please tap on the X card and we will remove that content. The X card can also be used to simply get rid of a card for any reason. If a card is removed this way on your turn, simply draw another card. And for more info on the X card.
Yep. And we won't have the X card in the middle of the table. However, you know, given that we're playing here, feel free to say X card, or can we remove that? Or you can do symbols, or you can write in the chat. If for some reason somebody let's say I'm trying to say, you know, like type in the chat, like, hey, can we remove that content? And maybe whoever's talking, like Selene, you're currently the active player and you're in the middle of something and you don't see that. Anybody can feel free to bring that up. So if anybody sees someone activating the X card, but other people don't hear it, feel free to just mention, oh, hey, there's something in the chat, and then we can kind of do that. Place the I decline to answer card at the center of the table. Use the I decline to answer card whenever you, as the player or as your outsider character, prefer not to answer the question. So if somebody's asking me a question, I can also say I prefer not to answer that question using this card, right? And there's a slight difference between the X card and this. The X card is saying that question, we're removing it, it never existed, right? So it's taken out of the game. Whereas if you ask me a question, and it could be maybe not a question from the card, just a clarifying question. If I say I decline to answer, the question stands, I'm just not answering it. So it's still part of the game. It's just me as a character or player is not answering that question, right?
One thing, Olivia, yeah. Could you silence your microphone when you are not speaking? The noise, that the background, it's really grating.
Yeah, there's a like a constant buzz, and I don't know if you even are you using the mute on the actual mic?
Is it me?
It might. Yeah, I think so, because like even when if you use the mic mute, try using the mute on the just in the app.
Oh, okay, I'll try that. Let's see.
And let's see if that makes it go away. So now it sounds like you're currently on mute, and I think the buzzing is gone. So I think your mic is making a buzzing sound regardless of whether or not that mute button is physically pressed on the mic.
Just to confirm, we might want a couple of moments of silence, because I think it's when somebody else isn't talking, one of the mics is broadcasting.
Moment of silence. And it was actually silent. So I think it is, Olivia, I think it's your mic. So yeah, let's use the software mic, software mute button, and we'll see how that goes.
One UI note for Zoom is while you are muted, if you hold down spacebar, it will unmute you while that's held down. So you can use it as a kind of push to talk.
That's nice. Thanks for the tip.
I want to try that real quick. Let me see. Okay. Oh yeah, no, that's
okay. Could you repeat that? What was the tip?
So while you're muted in Zoom, you can talk while you're holding down spacebar.
Yeah, basically hit the little mute button. Oh, here, we'll let you try it. Not hearing you. Seemed to work for me. Make sure you're definitely like clicked into the Zoom window when you do it.
I'm on my iPad using Bluetooth keyboard, so it might not work that way.
Yeah.
So I mean, I saw that hint by like hovering over the mute button. So I don't know if there's a similar thing on the iPad Zoom.
Cool. All right. Where were we? Oh, so there's the decline to answer card, and then yeah, Will. You're on mute though.
Yup.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, short or long game. So we shuffle the question cards, and then we put the I motion for a vote card into either the middle of the question card stack or near the bottom of the questions card stack. And then the question card stack is placed face down in the center of the table.
Okay, I have already done this, so we are shuffled and it is set. This is what the I motion for a vote card looks like, but Zach, go ahead and read it.
Pardon. I motion for a vote. When someone plays this card, the Q&A phase is immediately over. Move on to the voting cards. If you get this card, you don't have to play it.
So each of us, when we're taking turns, you'll see you have a couple cards in your hand. So at some point, somebody's going to get this card. This will be one of your 3 cards. Just because you have it doesn't mean you have to play it. So you can always play a different card and ask someone a question, and then you just pass the cards over, and they will now have this card, and they can decide if they want to use it. So we kind of control the pace of the game as far as that goes. And back to Libby.
Okay. The council talks amongst themselves prior to questioning the outsiders.
Why do we need new members? We have a great thing going here. We all know the wrong outsiders can bring the morale down. It already took us so much to get this far.
But some of us were outsiders once. Then we became part of this community. Now look at us. We've helped make it great. It's our turn to give someone else a chance.
Remember what happened before? Why risk bringing new outsiders in? I mean, there's no way to be sure they're going to get in line with how we do things.
Now, let's keep an open mind and heart. There's no harm in listening to what they have to say. I mean, maybe they can help us with our current problems. We could really use some innovation.
Can we trust them? They seem so different from us. Maybe we're too willing to give these outsiders the benefit of the doubt.
Libby?
You're still muted.
The push to talk isn't working for me after all. Or not consistently. Well, we could use them to do things we don't want to do. Our resources are running low. Perhaps they know something we don't.
It's true that we have no clue if they're going to fit in or not, but I'm hearing that some of them have potential. Should we take the chance and find out?
Yes, let's meet these outsiders. It's time.
All right, it is time. So each player grabs a name tent, which we don't have here on the virtual table, and write your outsider name and their pronoun. And notice it says if you want to add a few other details, feel free. And then when we're done, we can continue reading the cards. So, and when I say additional details, so for example, let's say we had chosen to be animal companions. One of those details might be what kind of animal are we, right? Am I a raccoon or am I something else, right? In this game, you may or may not put additional details, but you can. You can say like, you know, the pirate queen or something like that, or give yourself some other title. We can change our names in here, right?
So how do we, so we're putting it in our screen name.
I'm wondering if we should, and if we do, maybe we can have, let me see, how do we do that again?
It looks like you can right-click your video and select rename.
I'm not able to do that. There, okay, yeah. Or if you can't right-click the video, there's like the 3 dots, you know, in the top right, and there's a rename option there. Does everyone have that ability? Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep.
So what I recommend is maybe we'll put your character name and then pronoun in parentheses. And then if you have any other information, but then put a dash and leave your real name at the end there so we know who's who. Mm-hmm.
You can also click participants. That brings up a nice screen.
Cool, thanks. And we did talk a little bit about this before, that we're playing in a world with a floating magic technology castle. So are we playing in a world where there are some, like, are we cool with like the normal types of fantasy and sci-fi type tropes that we're used to? Are we thinking like steampunk fantasy age, or like, is this future tech? Like, I think that might be a good thing to make sure we're kind of on the same page about.
Well, I was thinking this whole time, you know, steampunk magic kind of combo.
That's where I was,
technology is mixing with magic. We have these, like, I don't know, Tesla thingies that shoot magical lightning and stuff. Here is another thing powered by magical crystals.
But
Like
given our theme, we're not talking about Battle Angel Alita, right? Which has also got the same theme, but a very different like technology.
No, I don't think so.
Girl Genius Final Fantasy VI, if people
Yeah.
If that still works with the other stuff we said, because I'm not that familiar with the Final Fantasy stuff, I'm cool. That sounds good. Like magic-y tech stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, their airships are literally, it's a flying ship with kind of balloons and propellers.
I'm down for that. Like Miyazaki-esque type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Question, can you somehow see the full name that I typed here, full text that I typed here? Because the way it's laid out only shows the name and cuts out the pronoun mostly and doesn't show my name anymore.
Yeah, like I can't. However, one option is like if you click, oh yeah, even that doesn't really show it all. Well, it shows more. Like definitely for me in the chat window, if I'm trying to specify who I want to send the chat to, it'll show William Brain or Brain, and then he, him, dash Zach, ... It shows a little bit more than what it shows in the window.
I can see the whole thing in the participants window.
And it might have to do with how you set up your, no. There's different kinds of views as well you can set.
Yeah, but I set it so there's, you know, a small row of these windows at the bottom.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on everyone's view and how they have their windows set, like how much they'll be able to see. Like as I was resizing my window, I can see more or less of your name, right? And I have it set so that I can see all the windows simultaneously, right? The, what do they call it?
I think I'm just gonna
Gallery
cut the.
view.
I just think I'm gonna cut the surname and
Sure.
we'll just remember it. Yeah, we'll try that. Better. You can at least see the name and the pronouns. Hopefully you remember my name.
Cool. Okay, so I think we are, it looks like everybody's got their names there. And let me see, yeah, you are not the best, Zinn. Let me see here. Man. Okay. There we go. So I'm gonna go through, so the same order that we had before, except this time I'll put our other names there as well. So, okay. So Libby is Hazel. And then we have Olivia, which is Ara. And cool, Selene, you're, is it Luce or Lucy? How would you pronounce it?
Pronounced Luce.
Luce. Okay. And then we've got me. And let's see. That'll be fun. Sibelius or Sibelius.
Sibelius.
Sibelius is going to be Will, and I think you. Let me just double check. Yep. And then finally, not confusing at all, we have William, which will be Zach.
That's all right. I don't go by William, so I think I'm safe.
Yeah. So as long as we call him William, we're good. Cool. So I have our turn order there. I may throw it up in the chat every once in a while if the chat window like moves down and stuff like that. But that looks good. And then, all right, so we'll continue reading these instruction cards. Next is Will. You're on mute.
That's all right. I also have to clear my screen. We will now take turns being the active player. Read the active player reference card and then place it in the center of the table.
Zach, go for it.
Active player reference. 1. Always have 3 question cards in your hand. 2. Select a question card and ask the question to an outsider. Whenever possible, choose a different outsider than the last that answered. 3. Any players can ask clarifying questions. 4. After questions have been answered, pass the remaining cards in your hand to the next active player.
And I'll manage the passing of cards. Okay, and we've come full circle. So anyone can be first. Does anyone volunteer? Oops.
I volunteer.
Okay, then I am going to give you 3 cards. So I'm sending a private message to whoever the active player is. You will see 3 lines. They will each have a number, and I'm going to show everyone an example. So here's an example question that I'm sending to everyone. It'll look something like that. It'll say Q and then have a number, and then it'll have a question. So you'll get 3 of those. So you just let me know which question you want to ask, and I can put it up on the board shared. So like we have a big version of it that we can all read. But then go ahead and ask the question of whichever character you want to ask.
All right, so if I understand correctly, going again through the rules, I now choose whom this question is asked to, yeah?
Yes, which character, which outsider?
Yeah, which other outsider, one of these 3 questions. Okay, so Sibelius, tell me, what's the story with your scar?
Oh, I see.
Ooh, oopsie. Do I not have?
That's the question 27.
Yeah. Uh-oh. I think I have a incorrect. All right. That's okay. I'll do that.
Well, I was seeking the wisdom of the the ancient peoples of the plains of Kadash. I was caught in a terrible razor sandstorm, and while I struggled through the adversity of surviving that terrible night, the shards of obsidian from the razor sand cut this gash in my cheek. But I was able to make it to the plains of Kadash and learned much of the lore of the peoples there.
So now any of us can ask any clarifying questions if we'd like. For example, that's a very fantastic story. I have heard of people getting caught in those storms, but I've never heard of anyone surviving. And all you got is a little gash on your cheek?
Very suspicious, very suspicious. I'm telling you, he's a spy and a communist.
I had protective garments on, that is to brave the terrible wastes, but they were stripped away from me as I made it to safety. My mask was blown away at the last moment as I found a cleft in the rocks, and this gash happened in those bare moments from when the mask fell from my face to the moments when I plunged into the rocks for shelter.
Oi, and would you tell us, how is it that people of Kadash even accepted you there? Why did they tell you anything, huh? They are very secretive. Last time I was there, 60 years ago, they didn't tell me nothing. So how did that you go to anything, huh? Sounds suspicious to me.
I was carrying a message from one of their neighbors. I was able to there was a promise of peace and renewed trade, and I was able to use this charge as an inroad to visit the peoples and ask the questions that I wanted to.
So if there are no further clarifying questions, then what I'll end up doing is I'm going to private message the next player, which in this case is Libby or Hazel. And when you'll see that I send you a private message with 2 of the cards that remained from the last player's hand, plus a new question as well. But if anybody does have any further questions, feel free.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick Q6. How far would you go to be part of our group? What line are you not willing to cross? I'm gonna ask that of Ara.
Growing up in my village, I heard many tales of the city in the sky. I told myself from the age of 5 that I would do anything I could, learn all that I could, create all that I could to become part of your group, to enter the city that that my people thought of as only a legend, but I found out it was real. I have sacrificed much to get as far as I have now. As for a line I am not willing to cross, I would not cause harm to any living person or to animals.
And would you let us believe that you have come all this way, all the way up to our castle here in the sky, and you have never once had to harm any other living creature?
Let me clarify. To harm any living creature that has not first threatened me or the safety of others. I have had to defend myself. I have never killed a living being, and I have never initiated a conflict.
And if you joined us here in the city, and the city was under siege by another invading force, would that still be then defending yourself?
Yes, I believe that would be defending ourselves. The city has some of the greatest wonders of the world, and those are deserving of protection.
And what if the enemy came from within? Would that also be defense? Would you defend us from the enemies from within our community who try to strike us down from our glorious and earned position that we need for our continued research?
I do not know the internal rulings of your council or the political system of your city. That's all kept very secret. Or at least I have not been able to get anything out of anyone I've asked thus far. I would need to know more about your criminal justice system. How would I go about? How would you go about then determining that someone is a threat, and and how they go about receiving punishment or being ejected from the city? I'm not familiar.
I see. We are avoiding answers. We will keep eyes on you.
Well, to answer one question, I mean, of course we have, judges, and we have courts. We are not uncivilized in how we deal with criminals. Would you accept our rule of law, given that you will live here in the city, and would you uphold our laws, even if you're not? They may not be the laws that you grew up with.
Yes, I would. In becoming a citizen of your land, I would uphold the laws of your land, and I would work with it in the rules of your laws, and not participate in any sort of vigilantism, as I was worried was the suggestion that was being made.
I have passed cards to Olivia.
I guess I'm going to go with question 9. And that is, how long have you known the rest of your group? And I'm going to ask that of Zinn, the child.
I've known them for a long time. I mean, like 3 months? That's a long time, right? I tried to get here on my own, but I'm small, and I don't have all the the tools at my disposal down there. People look down upon those who are weak, and they don't see the strengths that really lie within. And I have a lot of strengths, let me tell you. I mean, that's why they brought me along, right? Like, I think if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't even be here. I have a good mind for puzzles, and you know, I think I was able to get us past many obstacles to get us up here. You can ask them. If they're honest, they'll tell you.
And what's led you to select this group for your journeys compared to any of the others that roam the wastes seeking our sanctuary?
Well, I mean, I'd like to think it's all skill, but that would be silly. I mean, some of it's going to be luck. But let me tell you that I was looking for groups for a long time. I grew up and I knew about this place. You know, my big sister, she used to read it to me in the books all the time and tell me the nighttime stories, and she'd tell me about, you know, the castle up there and about the society you guys had. And I knew that was the place I had to get into. So I've been looking for groups for 2 years now. And finally I came across this group, and I knew that there was a couple of them I could trust, maybe not all of them, but a couple. And they looked like they had what it took to get up there. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of people who want to get up here and they don't know the first thing. They don't know the first thing about how to get up here.
And would you be willing to accept the fact that until you grow up, your decisions would be, you know, passed through the council of older, more mature members of our society?
I might. It depends on how smart they are, I guess.
Ha! Good answer.
You are very young, and you have been already looking for 2 years. What exactly is it that caused you to leave home at such a young age? Like, would that not say something about flightiness? Would you
I
be
don't
willing
know.
to stay with us?
Well, let me see. I grew up in the abandoned tunnels under the city. I was raised by my older sister. We barely had anything to eat. You know, she was taken away from me, and I had to struggle on my own. So I don't know. I don't really look at it as flightiness so much as, you know, looking for that thing where you know you will be valued and you could use your brain and your abilities to the best. And I don't think that's what was happening down there. So I don't really consider leaving my prior home as flightiness.
What was the hardest puzzle that you helped the group through?
Just getting this ringer to work on the door. I mean, like, that's a pretty complex thing. You know, there was about 5 different dimensions of puzzles that you had to get through just to figure out how to get it to notify you guys to come and talk to us. I was actually surprised. I thought after the last couple of physical, you know, obstacles, once we got here, we would just be able to hit a button and say hello. But no, apparently you guys take it to that next level. I'm impressed.
Okay, I don't want to, interrupt now, but could we take a 5-minute bathroom break now?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So we've been at it just about an hour. How's everybody doing? Other check-in. Okay, otherwise? So let's do a 5-minute bio break. Actually, let's do 8 minutes. Right now I have 13 after the hour. So we'll start again at 20 after the hour, my time.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. See you soon. back. Oh, that's the thing. That's one thing I don't like about this Zoom thing. As soon as I share my screen, it kind of like messes with all the windows.
Confirm I'm back.
Yep, cool. And Libby, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, cool. Then I think we're all ready to go. Let me just bring my chat window back up. I don't know if anyone had any further questions for me, but I already did. Okay, cool. And Selene's ready to go. Are we ready to continue?
Ready.
Okay, let me just get the question up.
All right. William, if you get chosen, what is the first thing you will do?
Well, the first thing I will do is seek out the best biologists that the Grand Floating City has to offer, and I will submit my report from the month when I was climbing the body of great Gazambaldur, the one who drinks clouds. I believe that they might be quite interested in my thorough research on the matter.
What impact do you think that will have on us?
Oh, I believe it can help us understand the biology and natural world better, as this fantastic creature is a unique example of a behemoth reaching the clouds. It is one of unprecedented height and mass. What is happening with his body could very much help us with construction of such floating structures, of possibility of creating other creatures that could be of their normal size or normal size and flying, as the body of he who drinks clouds doesn't seem to be affected by gravity as much as it definitely should.
Our last survey of He Who Drinks Clouds was from 8 years ago, and to my recollection was quite thorough in the discussion of his digestive cycle and his natural foraging and other elements. What in the what new information will you be able to provide on this individual and its phenomenon that we have not already covered in 8 years prior?
Well, I've spent enormous amounts of time, not necessarily of my own volition, dealing with various parasites that crawl all over and within the body of he who drinks clouds, and I found out that they have crucial role in his metabolic cycle, and specifically in the functioning of the pockets containing the substance or field, as was as you assessed in your previous reports, which allow him to maintain this size. So I would certainly share that with you, as well as all my speculation as to the possibility of more organisms living within his body and possibly even within these pockets. This is truly an unexplored avenue and something that could bring us fantastic new avenues of knowledge.
How dedicated are you to science? Would you give us those answers even if we refuse to allow you to stay within our city?
Well, I could share them. It would be quite difficult to do this from here since I cannot write. But yes, I would do my best to pass it on to you. I would have rather discussed it with your own researchers and natural philosophers. However, my dedication to expansion of knowledge is greater than my need to have some kind of leverage over the city, which I don't believe I would ever have.
Yet you do describe knowledge of this creature that would make it possible to, for outsiders even like you, to build floating structures. If you were not to be accepted into the city, would you feel tempted or seek out others to challenge us or even to retaliate?
Oh, no, by golly, no, I would never. No, you see, my belief is that people of science, philosophers of nature shouldn't fight with each other. They should always work together. However, they should seek new grounds onto which they could meet more equally, as I believe knowledge is best shared between equals. So I might be tempted to create new forum for scientists from outside city to discuss this with me, sort of personal school of natural philosophy with no intention of challenging the city, but rather creating more diverse discourse. Yes, yeah.
I'm sorry, did I hear you say that you cannot write?
That is correct. I am a self-taught philosopher of nature. However, I have developed a system of mnemotechniques that allow me to memorize large amounts of data. I also can draw, so I've brought for myself my sketchbooks, several kilograms of which it was kind of a problem to drag them here, where I have very detailed sketches and drawings of the phenomenon which I have witnessed. All the questions?
Then I will ask a question of Luce. You have traveled with these people for some time. In what way have they held you back?
Well, my work is primarily with what are called robotics, although I would prefer that they be known as augmented embodiments for spiritual beings who maybe cannot, who have some small potency in our world on their own, but I provide bodies that allow them to enact or act on our world more efficiently. And they are usually quite grateful for such embodiment. Some of my compatriots have objections to this practice, ranging from somewhat superstitious that we should not be, these things do not have bodies for a reason and therefore should not be given bodies, to simply a what if they decide, now that they have bodies, they are too dangerous. But I am sure that with such an enlightened group as yourselves, I will find places to continue these experiments, and I hope to help these bodiless spirits become a truly functioning part of society.
Have any of these embodied spirits shown violent tendencies or antisocial tendencies? and it attempts to rebel against the control of the land, the laws of the land.
Oh, I'm very careful to make sure that I only choose the friendliest spirits to grant these mechanical bodies.
And these are only
seem to be-
mechanical bodies that you provide them?
Yes. Well, there are some motivating mechanisms that are perhaps a little bit more magical as required in order to bring this fusion about. But also there are very convenient buttons on each of them to disembody them.
And how can we be sure that that you will stay on the side of originally embodied creatures like us, rather than those spirits? You seem to be quite friendly towards them. Are you with them, or are you with us? How can we be sure?
Well, the embodied spirits that I have dealt with seem most interested in learning more about us and, in fact, wishing, if they could, to become more like us. And so most of my experiments have been around that, trying to find ways that we can use what I know to help perhaps folks who have lost limbs in unfortunate accidents and make better replacements for them.
And how can we be sure that those spirits don't want to replace us, become like us, and then take our place in this world?
Well, so far they have been quite grateful, and so far their bodies are still rather frailer than our own.
What methodology have you put in place for evaluating the memories and behavior patterns of the spirits you embody for signs of subversiveness against our current society?
Well, I talk to them quite a lot in frequent sessions, and I have only successfully embodied a few spirits that have been known for being helpful around, say, a household.
To be fair, honored colleagues, I cannot quite see the subversive potential in house fairies and suit sprites.
Let me put it in a simple question. When was the last time you performed one of these, I don't know, spiritual transformations and regretted it?
Well, I suppose there was the one suit spirit that was just very early in my work, and it was able to animate the body. It appeared that I had misconfigured the energy transfer mechanism for the motivating force, and unfortunately, in animating the body, it drained its own energy, and the suit spirit expired.
Oh dear.
Is that all the questions you have for me, Honored Council?
For now.
For the moment.
Yes, we'll come back to it later. Surely.
My next question is for Hazel, the agriculturalist. Honored Council, I refer to question 26. Your work is known to us. It is said that you have a mantra you live by. What is it?
My mantra.
Also, feel free to take your time to think about answers. I specifically look at this question because when it gets asked to me, I'm always like, I need a moment. And as a reminder, remember that you can always X any question that gets asked to you. So for example, let's say at this point, Libby decides I'm going to X this question, then Will would get another question card and then can decide to ask a different question. And also remember when the 3 cards are in your hand, you know, if you're looking at them and you're not interested in any of them, you know, look at whatever is like the least interesting question, X it out, and you get a new one, right? If you personally just don't like a question, you can also exit, but you can also leave it there for somebody else. So, you know, but just make sure you have one that you like.
I think I'm actually going to. I don't know.
And feel free to
You
exit.
could-
Like
or
one
you
of my
can pass it on to someone else.
That's also true. But yeah, one of my favorite things about For the Queen and some of these games that have been built off of it is that X card, we use it like a lot more frequently than I've seen in other games. Like even if you're just like, oh, I don't like this question, or this is boring, or we've kind of already answered it, or whatever, you can just feel free to exit.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna X this one.
Cool. Let me send another one over to you, Will. So you should have an extra one now. My favorite part about X's in this game is that it's training us to use them in more and more situations. So it's just like you get practice.
I would like to X question 32.
Okay. Let me send you another one through. Cool.
Our question is for Hazel, the agriculturalist. We would know, and I direct us to question 36. What are you most scared of?
I'm afraid of blight. The blight is spreading, and it affects. Actually, there are many types of blight that have ravaged the countryside and have forced people into nomadic lifestyles. And I'm afraid that it's going to come to the city.
How could it come to the city? Is it airborne? Can it fly? Can it travel through birds? Tell us, why should we care? Other than, of course, our well-known concern for the people below. Yes, of course. Other than that.
Well, of course it does. It is airborne, and any kind of animal can just pick up infected seeds and spread them that way. It's very likely to arrive.
And
And
you as a researcher of this blight, wouldn't there be a strong chance that you could bring it in within our walls yourself?
Well, I've taken a lot of precautions, and my research is mostly in creating resistant varieties of plants.
And how do you intend to? Oh no, sorry. Go.
You may have taken precautions, but what about your companions?
If first of all, I do encourage them to take precautions as well, but also anything. If it is traveled with my companions, it is traveled with any birds or just like clouds that have come to this land. So you're already in trouble if it's with my companions.
I love that we see Zinn scratching his head and like, looking itchy during this whole time in the background.
And as you're saying, it could already affect us. Is there any way to combat it, or maybe wash it off people or animals that might be carrying it? Are there any ways to screen living creatures entering the city to prevent it? Because otherwise, we might be forced to go into full lockdown, put on a shield of targeted lightning to zap any bird that tries to approach us. That'd be incredibly wasteful, but from what you've said so far, it doesn't sound like we have much of any other way of defense.
There are organic fungicides that are effective against the blight, and it's also possible to tell what plants are affected. They have a white sheen on the bottom of their leaves. So if you allow me in, I am happy to examine any plants that have arrived to ensure that they are not infected.
As you know, there is a subspecies of herbal botanicals that have a white sheen on the underside of their leaves. How are you trained in distinguishing these very valuable, very useful herbs from possible blight infected crops?
Of course. I mean, the blight infection can be kind of, it's kind of a powdery sheen that can be wiped off, but the herbs have, it doesn't come off. It's like part of the leaf. Is that all your questions, Honored Cancel?
Yep. Whose turn now to ask?
It is yours. So I have sent you
Yes,
the
I
chat.
see. So yes, next question would be to Mr. Sibelius. Mr. Sibelius, with us? Oh yes, fantastic. So Mr. Sibelius, please tell us, in what way has your current group held you back? You seem like this extremely powerful, renowned individual, almost legendary access and ability. How have these people held you back?
Now, just a warning that we did have this question before because I noticed there was a little problem with my my question things. There's 2 or 3 repeats. Do we still want to use this question?
Oh no, I didn't notice. You're
Yeah.
right.
I saw that I missed this one. I was cleaning it up during the break, but
Oh no, then I ask a different one.
yeah,
No problem.
let me send you this one. Okay, you have a new one too.
Oh, this is a good one, thank you. So yes, Mr. Sibelius, who do you consider to be the leader of your group?
This may take me a moment.
There, sorry, I accidentally moved the...
I am glad you asked that question because I think that's part of the reason why I have stayed with this group, and part of the reason why I elected to join them in the first place, is the degree to which everyone in this group supports each other. Certainly there are situations where one or another of us have shown themselves to be exemplary and taken charge in critical situations, such as young Zinn in his attempts to climb the elaborate challenges that brought us to this place, or the eagerness of Ara in marking our paths across the desert and keeping us moving forward. Even the strange, somewhat unnerving contraptions that Luce has generated have helped guide us through the worst of the storms. We are a group united in hope, and that hope is our leader.
So is it that you believe then that groups led without a distinct leadership and hierarchy are better than those that utilize them?
I believe there is a certain strength in an ensemble presentation that is to be lauded. There is certainly much that I have seen in cultures across this world that individual despotic, monarchic, or otherwise singular rulers do tend to be able to have a singular vision, but their rule is brittle, and it does not reach to the farthest corners of their domain. At the same time, ensembles have the ability to support each other and to provide a great variety of viewpoints to consider when addressing each obstacle. I think this is worth pursuing.
Does that make you some sort of anarchist then, or would you be willing to submit to the rule of the council? This sounds quite potentially radical in
Exactly.
And it also brings into the question of what kind of leadership abilities you all have if none of you has risen, or have any of you tried to rise to the leadership role?
Regarding the first point, your esteemed council is an ensemble, is it not? And the members of your council is, from the stories I've heard tell, come as elected representatives from among the multitude of the city. Therefore, the wisdom of the city has been polled in the process of generating this esteemed council, and surely the members of this council defer to each other on important matters and trust each other's positions. On the question of leadership, I am afraid I decline to answer that question.
Perhaps we can pose it slightly differently. If your group of, 6 of you, if you had to elect 2 members to be the council of your group, who would they be?
Ooh.
That's nice, and I need a moment.
whenever we're playing this, I always hear the chatter in the background. Like when you're saying like, no, we all come together for hope. I can already hear somebody like, maybe we should just let hope into the city and let you all leave, you know, or something like that.
I bet your character needs this moment too.
Yeah, he's sweating a bit.
I can probably see like other characters from the group just looking at him kind of from the corner of their eyes like, come on, dude, don't let us down now. Come on, choose me, choose me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, this is gonna take a while. What do we know about these characters so far?
I almost want you to choose Zinn just because it's the most amusing to me.
You know, he's on the short list.
Minus won't help you because they are judgmental. It's like Ara, communist. Sibyl, that's you, that doesn't count. Zim, the clever kid. Luce, the ghost sympathizer. And Hazel can save us from the plague. So that's she's
All right. I think I have an answer now. All right. This is, esteemed council, this is overly reductive. However, if you force me to propose a dyad, I would suggest that raw enthusiasm is the dynamic that would drive a group forward, and so I would nominate Zinn and Ara in the leadership positions. Zinn because his enthusiasm and his striking motivation to prove himself is energy that can drive the group forward, and Ara because she carries with her the hopes and dreams of her childhood, which is still quite present within her.
I would like to point out that Zinn is in the background, like poking his ear and looking at the wax that he's just pulled out of it.
top leadership, top notch.
Esteemed council, can I answer your questions further?
No further
Seems quite
questions.
alright to me.
Let's move on.
Okay. Let's see. Luce, what does your tattoo or piercing mean? How did you come to get it?
Let me think for a sec. Okay, so I gesture at a large crystal inset in my earlobe, and I say, well, this piercing is actually a resonant receiver that allows me to hear some of the activity of, say, household spirits, and when I get close to one of my mechanical bodies to help diagnose it, anything wrong with it more easily. And it is an invention of my own device.
What inspired such an invention? I mean,
well, there was an elder in my village who claimed to be able to listen to, who was a blacksmith, and claimed to be able to listen to the metal as they worked, and be able to hear by the tone of the hammer or the slight hissing and creaking as they worked it exactly what was going on. And so I thought that I should have something that could similarly kind of amplify the natural sounds within these bodies so that I could distinguish or better distinguish what was happening inside.
I'm sorry, but don't feel too offended by this question, but is it your typical research method? Listening to feeble-minded and turning their hallucinations into scientific inventions?
Well, our blacksmith was quite quite accomplished given the tools that she had, and I feel that we should take inspiration from wherever we may find it, even if certainly a accomplished blacksmith can tell from the way the sound of the strike how cool the metal is and whether it must be heated up again to be worked further. That seems quite scientifically sound to me, and I simply expanded on the concept.
And how did you first hear these spirits? What are you even speaking to?
Well, if in the quiet of the night, one can, it is common to hear a sort of susurration, especially as the house spirits are, or if one is fortunate enough to have them, to, as they sweep away some of the dust of the day. And if with similar devices, one can hear more clearly what they wish to say.
So were you able to hear them even before you created this device?
Not with any clarity. I could hear their presence, as is possible in anywhere where there is a spirit and very little other sound, such as in the more rural areas, which admittedly is where the spirits tend to be more active.
And do you know any other people who could hear their spirits? Perhaps even within this here group?
Well, Sibelius has, I believe, been able to hear them as well. And we've had many interesting chats about our conversations with them.
Oh yes, they esteemed Sibelius. Is there something he cannot do? That wasn't the question.
Well, I mean, he certainly does not know how to repair a mechanical arm.
At least we've got that.
That's Luce's going.
Sibelius in the corner is half meditating and just trying to act as if he didn't notice that.
No more questions.
So Olivia has the current hand. I also just put a repeat for everyone, just our turn order, in case it's scrolling because of chat stuff. You guys aren't probably having as much chat stuff because you just have like when I post questions, but I'm having like a ton of stuff go by.
I am going to ask I should look at the number again, just a sec. I am going to ask of you fellow council members to refer to question number 14. So there is a rumor about you, Hazel. What is it, and is it true?
The rumor is that I sing to the plants, and that's why my plants are so healthy. And it is true, but it's not. It's no magic. It's no like superstition. It's simply the plants respond to certain wavelengths of sound, and the songs sound pretty.
Oh yes, two listen to spirits, another sings to plants. It only gets better. Please, could you tell us, as you've spent a few months with this group, do you find that any of their knowledge or discipline helped you better describe or understand this truly fascinating phenomenon?
Yes, I actually overheard Zinn. Zinn was singing some silly children's song, and I could tell that the plants were responding to it. And that's how I discovered a new wavelength for a certain type of wheat. So actually, it's been very helpful to travel with such a diverse group with many different cultural backgrounds.
Have you had the opportunity to learn how uh, well, to attend schooling in how to properly represent your experiments, and have you recorded the data that you have gathered from studying these plant songs?
Well, I don't know music notation, so I pretty much have to rely on a notation that I made myself. And it's difficult to find reliable units of measure. So I've used trying to think of something silly. I've mostly used like the size of the first joint of my thumb to measure the plants. And I understand that you all have far more sophisticated tools here, and I would be very eager to use them.
In the background, William being like, oh, I haven't thought about this one. Okay, that's cool, I'll use that. Fun, huh?
So, have you had the opportunity to attend any House of Higher Learning then? If you, it seems quite likely that you haven't if you are using rough measurements.
No, of course not. I have never. I mean, I apprenticed with a senior agriculturalist for many years. The wisest and most experienced in my village, but I have not had such opportunities as my honored council members.
And how long do you think it would take you to transition from these rough methods to sophisticated and settled measurements and techniques used by scientists here in the city? Rough estimate.
I'm sure it will take me quite a long time to learn everything that I can from the city, but I am eager to start. I've been reading every book that I can find, so I've done what I can, but because of that,
No,
I know.
my question precisely was how long? Weeks, months, years? Will it take you to translate your findings and methods, ideas, into the language of settled and agreed upon science that we used here in the city?
To translate my current findings, months.
I have another question. You say that many of this fine group you've traveled with has inspired yourself and others, but unfortunately in this great city we can only take so many. You know, we would love, of course, to be able to take everyone if we could, but we simply cannot. So if we had to leave one behind, who should we leave?
Sibelius. Any further questions?
No, and that
I
was
think
fantastic.
someone on the council, will be really impressed because Sibelius is giving off the vibe of Sorcerer Supreme, and you just, yeah, cut this guy. Someone's definitely interested.
You're quite quick to name one member of your group that has been supposedly so tight-knit. Why is it that you would be so quick to throw your fellow member onto the street?
Only because he is the one who would do best away from the city.
And one we could benefit most from having here. Your voice was heard.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't hear.
I said that if he can do best outside the city, he could also be the most useful within the city. And that's something that we will remember that you said. This kind of attitude.
Of course.
Okay. Oops, what happened there? Oh, oops, sorry. Let me do that.
So Ara, you are an inventor of some ambition. What are the top 3 favorite of your inventions? You're still muted.
The answer to this is obvious to me, for there is one invention especially above all that I have spent more time on than any other. Like, I call it the reflection engine. This is a machine that originally, when I first built it, I was still in my youth in my home village. It was a much larger, cruder version of what I am today able to create. But it is a device that uses mirrors to focus the energies of the sun and of magical energy in the air to make calculations and to do simple tasks. Well, the original machine, at least, in terms of simple tasks. It took me several years to build because I only had access to scraps. And I would forage in the scrap hills that were left by previous dead cities. And eventually I was able to build this machine, and it took up nearly a room, a shed really, that we had behind our home. And that first incarnation, while crude, was enough to get me into like one of the nearest cities had a school, and they were willing to take me on. And while it's nowhere near the schools that you have in your own city, I was able to learn more there and create smaller and more refined versions of this reflection engine. And now as you can see here, I have one that is contained entirely as a gauntlet along my wrist and my arm. I feel like given within my my 30 years of and within the 15 years that I've been working on this project. There is so much potential. If one person could do this, what could the many minds of your city and my penchant for invention and my skills, what could we do? And as for the second invention, it's sort of an offshoot of the first. In making the reflection engine, I realized that mirrors were also useful in creating magical propulsion. I feel like the reflection engine could be expanded upon to potentially even create flying devices. I've never had access to the types of materials of insufficient purity to be able to create anything that more than hovers, but I have been able to create like a rucksack with mirrors along the side. I call it a homeron, in that you can put it you can strap it to your shoulders and briefly hover. It has helped people in my village to get up to places where they couldn't reach, such as harvesting apples, for example. And the third invention, that would probably be the one that stuck in my memory from my childhood. My first real invention that I was excited about. It's nothing. It's fairly simple compared to the first two items on my list, but it has a sentimental value to me. I made a mechanical companion, as my parents were deathly allergic to, well, not quite deathly allergic, but like pretty allergic to cats, dogs, and other small furry creatures. So I created a tiny mechanical kitten.
Charming. Oh, go on.
Oh, sorry. Is this kitten also imbued with one of these spirits?
Oh no, not at that point. I feel like Luce and I could potentially collaborate on something very interesting. But I have not yet. I have not yet worked with spirits in my inventions.
No. Now, please tell me, do you want to replace us? You create minds of mirrors and floating engines of mirrors. Why not just build your own city of mirror minds in their city floating on mirrors?
Oh, as I mentioned before, I don't have the ability to refine the metals and create glass of such quality in order to create anything other than anything more powerful than floating a single person off the ground. In fact, the largest members of my village were not even able to use the device I created, as they were too heavy.
All of these
Ask a follow-up question, just a simple, short one. What is then the use for these devices for us in the city? How could they even potentially one day exceed the quality of minds or floating devices we have here?
I feel like there's a lot that is still of great potential with even the reflection engine devices that I have created thus far. I feel like you have access to much greater technology in terms of refining materials and producing parts that I simply do not have access to. And not only could I contribute to whatever teams you have that keep the city afloat, that keeps your whatever systems you have running. I went further than anyone in my village or even the city that I had my rough schooling in, and I feel like I've proved myself in going from on my own, creating a device that took up the space of an entire room as a youth, to one that can fit on my arm and do complex calculations and tasks. In fact, I feel like this device would be of use to you as well. What with the great minds here who would, I would believe, might be eager to learn how to program such a device.
I think both Libby and Will had questions, right?
No, I think my question was reformulating my question. I misunderstood the previous answer, so I'm still thinking.
Libby, did you have one?
No, I think it was answered.
Then I guess I have one. I think I am the so when we heard Zach talk as the council member and like, are you trying to compete? Like I'm the council member just next to that one and kind of like trying to calm that one down a little bit. And I'm like, but of course you must have had thoughts. If you wouldn't have found our city, or if you would have trouble finding it, how would you have attempted to use this and better this power? I mean, like you said, you can barely lift somebody off the ground. However, you also said that you've made great progress in short time with other inventions. What would you do next? Where do you see this going?
I do seem to have hit a wall in terms of the quality of my materials. While I have been able to refine using lenses to magnify what I am able to see and work with using only my hands and my tools, I have yet to discover any way in the lands that I've visited thus far to further refine the materials. And as for what I would do with this technology if I were not to enter the city, it is likely that I would do what I could to benefit the society that I came from with this technology as far as I could, and then pick some other need of the society and address that instead.
I must say I am rather impressed by your claims to have miniaturized a potent computational engine using mirrors and reflecting surfaces to such a staggering degree. As you know, mirrors can be used in a variety of applications, and the Armiston death ray, for instance, that is mounted on our ramparts is a prime demonstration of the power of mirrors to collect and focus light. Which leads me to ask you, have you brought a handheld death ray into this council chamber?
Oh no, it is not even powerful enough to warm my skin. It's primarily while it is insulated, it does create some degree of heat, but it's primarily a magical device, collecting the magic that comes from the sun rather than the heat. Since it's such a small device, it's not even as warm as the larger one that I created in my youth, and it's sort of, oh sorry, lost my track of thought. It's not a weapon. It's not dangerous. It can perform calculations, and I'm sure there are people who could come up within your city who could come up with even more interesting applications, but I assure you, it is not a weapon.
Do you mean it's not dangerous yet, or it could never be dangerous? Could it be weaponized is the real question. Could you, staying outside the city, refine it yourself to a point where it could be used to kill people or burn crops?
Whether or not it could be, that would be intensely immoral and outside of my moral compass. what my moral compass would dictate for me to do. And in fact, I would oppose any who would use such technology to cause harm to people.
So you would refuse to develop military applications for your technology?
While it's not something I would approach on my own, if I were required by the land that I live in to produce some sort of device, I would follow the rule of law and the rule of whatever council or whatever leader I was beheld to put my knowledge to the greater good if it were requested of me. It is not my first choice of what to do with my technology, and ideally there would be ways to put it to avoid any such violence. And like a knife, which can be used to cut food, to build things, such as any such dangerous applications of such device would be able to be similar to the knife in that it, while it could be dangerous, it could also have uses that are non-harmful to living beings.
Any further questions, council members?
No.
Then I think this next one, I actually got rid of, I X'd 2 questions that were in my hand. And then I'm gonna ask this one of William. There's been talk of, you know, from some of your various members of who may be the weakest among you or the strongest among you. Who do you think is the weakest link in your group?
Yes, well, I wouldn't want to point fingers because all the members of this illustrious group have helped me greatly on our journey.
Of course, but please point your finger.
Oh dear. Yes, with all due respect to that person and without meaning any harm to their chances to get into the city, I would say the weakest link in terms of knowledge and power and academic potential, perhaps, I am not sure, I cannot judge that perfectly, I'm not a seer, would be Ara.
And what would your argument be as to why she would be the weakest link?
Well,
and how are you a better choice?
Oh my, well, I haven't considered myself to be an option to choose. I would say that I have an ability to network with other people, share my knowledge, and create environments where they can create new ideas and bring them further. I have also great experience in my own unique yet very important field of study. To my own dismay, I must say that through a process of elimination, I have gathered that Ara is the weakest link among us when it comes to connections, uniqueness of her field, and her observed, so far, potential. I would say that everyone here surpasses her in these regards. Luce has very unique field of study and great potential. Zinn is a future leader, I believe, for sure. Sibelius is himself a walking legend, and Hazel holds potentially keys to survival of us all in her hands. So, out of us all, I would say Ara is the weakest link.
I find it curious that your answer so contradicts what it is that Sibelius said earlier. Could that be a sign of more strife than appears on the surface of your group if you have such wildly different ideas of your internal relationships and internal governance?
I don't quite understand. I'm not saying that we are not all important to the governance of the group. I'm saying that when push comes to shove and shove comes to blasting someone with magic, Ara is the weakest. No offense to her, of course. I hold great respect for her.
And yet we are not seeking soldiers or elite agents for this city. Blasting someone with magic seems, while certainly a very impressive skill set, is not necessarily the criteria by which we are evaluating. And Ara
no,
has...
don't get me wrong. I'm sorry. You must have misunderstood me. It was a metaphor. I meant the powers of the mind. I myself cannot blast anyone and wouldn't want to. I'm just saying that when it comes to our powers to change the world and create new knowledge, Ara is, quote, the weakest.
And yet, you have indicated to us that your knowledge base is based on a lack of writing. Hazel has admitted that she has had no formal training. Sibelius, although intriguing in the stories told about him, seems to have no scientific discipline. And respectfully, Zinn is... how old is, out of character, how old is Zinn?
I think he probably looks like 7 or 8.
All right. And with all due respect, Zinn is 5. Under these circumstances, why is it that you are so sure that Ara, who has accomplished inventions and an unknown, but certainly an unknown pedigree, is the weakest of you?
Oh, well, as I believe it is very important to look beyond the surface and to greater potential of the creature, as when you peel off the panzer covering of the egg of Zaltur and you see the fetus throbbing around inside. It is vital to me to look beyond lack of education or potential lack of academic experience and see to the greater potential of what they can bring to a city. You might be right that Sibelius could be a different sort of weakest thing. However, let's just say that call me easily impressed, but I find his ability to extract knowledge from far away peoples a bit more quintessential. Ara is a great student. I'm sure you have many similar to her in your city already. And that's my point. She's one of many. She's a typical common woman of potential, but not all unique skill set.
But is not a person who would fit well into our society exactly what we are looking for?
Is it? Then who is? What would be the criteria you'd prefer? Would you rather have angry anarcho-subversives? I don't believe so. As I've seen numerous times, when you climb the body of a gigantic monstrosity, it's better to have people you generally agree with than those who will kick you off of the back of giant monsters so you land on its tail, your foot is pierced by one of the spikes and you spend 2 days there trying to get out. Not personal story, of course. So what's the standard?
We ask the questions here.
Oh, I see. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Any more questions, illustrious council? Okay, cool.
I've passed the question cards over to Will.
Zinn, please step forward. Honored Council, I am referring to question number 33. As you know, the disposition of our young, the disposition of the youngest among us and their inherent and early constructed ideologies are important to the survival of the city. Therefore, Zinn, I ask you, what do you believe is a necessary evil?
I don't think there is any necessary evil. There's only choices. There's choices that you make. Someone in the city I grew up in may have thought that a necessary evil is, you know, to feed as many as you can, in which case, you know, others will go starving. I was one of those starving. Others may say that a necessary evil is, you know, to keep the majority of people safe, you know, and even at the cost of other lives. However, none of these evils is necessary. They're choices. So you always have to think about what you are willing to do and what you're willing to not do. And, you know, I think regardless of what you decide, you have to live with those choices. So as far as that goes, I don't believe there is any necessary evil.
Okay, then, whatever, this sounds more of an issue of semantics, but then could you name a hard choice that you believe is important to make?
A hard choice is sacrificing the pleasures that you would seek for to allow others to benefit. That is the hard choice that I have performed over and over again. The hard choice is sacrificing your piece of bread so that everybody may have a small piece of what is left.
Oh, well, let me please return for a moment to the fundamentals we've just skipped. Would you then say that you don't believe there is good or evil? Then what would be the morality, the moral axis that you would adhere to?
I believe that when a group comes together and tries to make the best of a situation, that they should all seek to work as fluidly as possible with each other. That I am not willing to sacrifice any on my journey. I think that is the moral choice that I would make.
And if others of whom you would put yourself in and others in the city, if you were to join us, if you were to be put under our employ, if you were to join the ranks of our hierarchy of the learned, and others above you made a choice that you personally would not have made on your own, would you accede to that choice?
Well, I would do what I must to make things work and what tasks are assigned to me to be part of the whole. I would not necessarily fight choices that others made about things that are outside the scope of whatever I can do. But if somebody made a decision that I could see that was in front of me, before me, and affected my friends in a negative way, I would not stand idly by. I would have to make my voice known, and I would have to do what I thought was right.
So you would do what you believe to be right, even if the rule of law and the council would disagree with you.
If I must, I do not believe in a necessary evil. I would expect you to respect no less.
So you think that at your age, even, that your moral faculties, your abilities to judge situations that could potentially even be life or death, are greater than that of the entire council?
Well, I can't claim to understand what all the thinking of the council is and all of their various both altruistic and maybe nefarious reasonings are. I can only tell you what is true in my heart and what I have seen and what is good and right, and I have to behave accordingly.
Sibelius is smiling.
Yeah, that's the golden kid. Everyone loves him, except for that one paranoid, angry council member. He's just getting madder. Any more questions?
I have passed cards on. In a second, I'm going to need to turn off my camera in a second, but I'm here and I'm listening just to let you guys know. And Zach, you have the questions, right?
I see, yes. But
Okay.
before I draw, I'd like to ask everyone a question, a quick poll. When would you like to finish? Because I've already drawn the motion for a vote card, so just kind of checking the temperature on that.
I have a game at 5.
How long is that from now? Just because I don't know time zones and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that in 20 minutes or like an hour and 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
Okay. I mean,
Alright, so
I'm cool either way. And if we did motion for a vote now, it'll let us like tie everything up before the hour's up with everything, debrief and time to spare.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Everyone clear with motion for a vote.
Okay, let's do
Yeah.
that. Oh, I think I have it in this. Oops, where is this card? All right, so when this card comes up, basically now we move on to the voting phase. And I'll let you go ahead and read that since you called it.
Fellow council members, we've heard enough from these outsiders. It's now time for us to deliberate.
So with deliberation, each of us, and we don't have to go in any specific order, but each of us has 1 minute to talk. We can champion or malign any outsider. We can also mention any merits, flaws, or other details that caught our attention. Anyone can start. I will keep time. So what I'll do is I'll keep a little timer. And what if you look at my screen, basically when 1 minute is up, I'm just going to put my finger up like this, but I won't interrupt you. So you can feel free to close off whatever argument you have. Yeah, so as soon as anybody's ready, just feel free to take the microphone and go. Now, just as a reminder, we're going to vote on the one person to reject. So because you only have like a minute, think about how you want to spend that. Do you want to, you know, talk about all the characters, or maybe you want to focus on the ones that you're like thinking are at the bottom of the pile or something like that, or maybe just the one or two that you think are at the top of the pile so people won't vote for them. It's your call. So whenever anyone's ready, go ahead.
I'll begin. It is clear to me that we have to eliminate Sibelius. He is a dangerous anarcho-communal subversive who will try to topple our wonderful city and crash down our order. Unlike the other dangerous anarcho-communal subversive, Ara, he is a powerful, dangerous, and experienced man. As we've heard, he survived impossible odds, and he could easily try to topple our order. Also, he believes in equality to a disturbing, I would say suspicious degree. Might want to create a complete equality here, not without even a councilship. Yes, that's what I believe. So yes, we have to eliminate him. Ara, we can steal more control. She's gonna learn with us. She's gonna grow into our community. But Sibelius, he is a wild card, and that's why he must not enter.
Okay, I'd like to talk about, I believe that we absolutely cannot accept Zinn into this community. That child is impetuous and ignorant and maybe needs some more time in the rough lands to mature and realize that hard choices must be made sometimes. On the other hand, Sibelius clearly understands this and possesses unique abilities and experiences that may be useful to this community. Aura, also very interesting talent. Luce, fascinating abilities, does seem to be have a unique inherent ability, which is something I find valuable. Hazel, useless. Our scientists can figure out this blight thing. That's what I have to say.
I'd like to speak also about the child Zinn. I find it highly disturbing, and that such a child, despite being so young and being so inclined to silliness, I feel like that the fact that a person in this group would refer to our fine council as nefarious is highly it makes it clear that this child doesn't care about getting into the city if they would be so brash, or if they actually think that they could get into the city and say such things, that they are deluded and filled with silly thoughts. Perhaps they should wait a few more years in the desert and come back and try to prove themselves later. Many of these other members of this group have tried for much longer, and done much more with their lives.
I wish to speak, Honored Council. I am less concerned about the child. The child is young and impressionable, and given the proper creches and instructors, could be molded in a direction that would better suit the community. I am more concerned about whatever radical among this group has a desire to perhaps more deftly infiltrate the social-political culture of our city. Zinn is young and perhaps does not hide his radical tendencies as well as others might. The chief ones that I suspect are Sibelius and William. On the other hand, one must consider the abilities that can be brought to the table, and I think that Ara, Hazel, and William all have abilities and focuses that will strengthen the city as a whole. Luce's dalliance with the spirits is novel, but perhaps a source of interesting support. I'm curious to see how this. I think that may be an interesting avenue for development.
I can go if you want. As chief biologist, I think we should. I definitely have my suspicions that Hazel is sent as a spy. I have done nothing but tons of research around sounds and plants, and I found all of it to be hokey and non-scientific. I believe that this blight that she speaks of, we have seen no signs of it whatsoever. I think that this is all made up nonsense so that she could scare us into coming in here. And I think she has been sent by somebody with nefarious and underhanded, needs and wants. And I'm not just saying this because I feel my job is at risk.
Well, we have certainly heard some interesting accomplishments from each of these 6. But in terms of their demeanor, I am concerned that if we are to have an infiltrator, I feel that William is trying to make all the right sounds far more than the others. And so I suspect that he may have ulterior motives. And well, certainly the research into He Who Devours Clouds is interesting. It is also, as mentioned, something we have done 8 years ago.
Awesome.
I must remark, this argument was so academic, petty politics that I love it. Yeah, we've done this. Don't look back into it. My papers are still there, right?
Did we all have a chance? Yeah, right? I think. Cool. So then what I'm going to do here, let's see. So next, we want to determine, do we want to vote anonymously or openly? And openly, we'll still, either way, we're going to vote simultaneously. So we won't know, like we'll all kind of vote at the same time. So we won't be influenced by each other. But do we want to just like, we could all go in the chat and then at the same time, like just post our vote? Like, is everyone cool with that? Or do we want to do?
I'd be cool with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, there's a list of our characters as far as, their names. So because we're going to vote to reject one, what each of us will do is we're going to write down the name of our outsider, and write it down, meaning we'll put it in the chat to everyone. So make sure everyone's chat is currently set to everyone. You're going to put in the name of the person who you're voting against. And then, but don't hit enter yet. And then, once everyone's ready, we'll do a 3, 2, 1, and we'll hit enter. We'll see all the results, and then we'll just see who gets rejected. You cannot vote for yourself. So you have to vote to reject one of the other characters, not your own character.
Ready?
I'm ready. Yeah, when you're ready.
Sorry, what was that you said about your own character?
You cannot vote for your own character.
Okay.
Real fame, I know.
And when everyone's ready, let me know. I know, so Selene is ready. Olivia, you said you were ready, right?
I'm ready.
Hazel's ready, cool. Then Olivia, maybe I misheard, so.
Actually, can you go over the format again? Is it just the name?
Just the name, the character name, or you can copy and paste like one of those lines that I put out there. But basically put the character name who you want to vote out, and then don't hit enter yet.
Okay.
Just throw it in the chat. Make sure it goes to everyone. And then once everyone's ready, I'll do a 3, 2, 1, and we'll hit enter.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. What about you, Zach and Will?
I'm ready.
Ready.
Okay, so when I say 3, 2, 1, then we'll hit enter and we'll see what the votes are. 3, 2, 1, go.
Shit. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. I wasn't in the right window.
That's all right. Cool. Then let's see what happens next. So first of all, the result is William is rejected. So we have one last thing to do, which is what becomes of us. So it has been some time since the council has made their decision. That could be days, hours, months. And each of us will give like a quick little epilogue of what has happened to our outsider. And just like in a couple sentences, right? Like a little vignette or something like that. And we can do this again in any order. I'm ready if you guys want. So I think we see like a couple of people we don't know in like a little office, and they're looking at their sheets and they're like, well, wait, what happened to this? Where's Zinn? You know, we haven't seen him, and it's like, oh no, it looks like he's been moved to D block, right? And you know, and we see D block, and they're like, oh no, it looks like he's been moved to A block, right? So there's obviously like some bureaucratic confusion, but we see a quick shot of Zinn in some tunnel somewhere underneath, you know, in the city up there in Sky City, and he's sitting there crouched down in front of a bunch of other kids, and he's like, and here's what our next step is going to be. And he's obviously like plotting something. We don't know what it is.
Nice.
I think that we see Hazel at a podium in like a grand lecturing hall, and she's giving a speech or a talk about her research. And as she explains like the extremity of the blight and like her work to remedy it, the camera kind of zooms in on one member of the audience who is like the council member, just like totally ashen faced, like, oh no, my job is gone.
I think I know where Ara would be. She has gotten access to new materials like beyond her wildest dreams, and she has adapted the personal flying device so that, and it's caught on as almost like a fad, so that like now there are people all over the city like flying, and people are starting to like rework parts of the like create places at windows on the higher skyscrapers for people to land. So it's like yeah, so that yeah.
Okay, so I think Luce has kind of a workshop with Luce's automatons, and there's a section of it that's like a kind of mechanical pets shop in collaboration with Ara, and she's busy working on it basically looks like a robot butler, and she's repairing the arm and asking like, okay, how does that feel? Can you move that well? And it's kind of blinking at her and moving its arm.
Right, so I have 2 ideas for William. One is kinda grim. So if anyone's against it...
The X card is still in play. Go for it.
Good. All right, then. So I think the story of William after that is that he tries to organize his own, you know, school of scientific research, organizes another excursion expedition to He Who Drinks Clouds, but his abrasiveness and, tendency to try to get all that glory for himself and try to establish himself as a powerful leader really angers his fellow scientists. So when he gets stuck between layers of skin of He Who Drinks Clouds, they just kind of leave him there, and his body was there to this day.
They just stuck him there and went home.
Sufficiently gross.
Yeah, but just like, oh yeah, he fell there and the skin close behind him. We could dig after him for hours or just keep going like nothing happened. Yeah, good plan. We keep going up.
So basically he becomes a zit, is what we're hearing.
Yeah.
And we see Sibelius out in the wastes, wearing some heavy protective gear and the insignia of the city, leading another caravan of potentials towards the city.
Awesome.
Nice. That's awesome. I love it. And I kind of like that that maybe, these personal flying devices, I can totally see like a bunch of them there on an edge and, people are using them. And then one of them accidentally gets knocked over and it just slowly falls to the earth below, right? It's like, So that's it. So that is our game. And that's The Outsiders. I would highly recommend, if you haven't played For the Queen, by the way, like this kind of simplicity as far as like storytelling is like very much like what that game is about. If you guys have to, so like what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it recording for a second, but if you have to drop off and go to another game, cool. If you do want to, my partner Jay, she's got like a Google form, which is kind of like a post debrief, like, what do you think of the game kind of thing. So if you're interested in participating in that, I mean, we would love you to. Feel free to send me like a private message here or whatever with your email, and then I'll give it to her and she'll send you like a Google questionnaire thing. But if you do have a few moments and want to stick around and do debrief stuff, I'm totally down for that. But I just want to give everyone a chance to get to their games.
Yeah, I gotta go, but thanks for playing this with me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Libby. Does anybody else have to run?
No.
No.
Okay. Then, yeah, I would love to do just a short thing of, we could do like Stars and Wishes is a very easy one where, we can talk a little bit about just like, a moment that we liked or something we liked about the game. And then we can also go through and just, if anybody has open feedback, but maybe we can do like just a quick circle around that. Does anybody want to go?
I would say a star to Zach for doing some heavy narrative lifting, both as William and as the council, the belligerent council person. The amount of color that you injected into the proceedings and flavoring how the council was reacting was delightful, and it drove the fiction.
Thank you. I was going for this kind of like McCarthyist kind of government official, just looking behind his shoulder, expecting communists everywhere.
That was great. It was great.
I'm glad you liked it.
I definitely I liked some of the interesting pseudoscientific-y stuff. So like Selene with your like some of like the spirit embodied machines, and then looking at some of the stuff like Olivia that you did, with some of the inventions. Like it's just it was interesting to like this world that we were in just felt a little bit more like magical and kind of authentic to, I think, what we were thinking as far as like cloud sky kingdom.
I mean, I actually slightly cheated in pulling the devices that I mentioned from an old novel project of mine.
Yeah.
It was like, it's set in a similar setting.
Totally.
The reflection engines were definitely a thing. That not the one that fits on an arm. That was new, but
Sure.
but the personal flying devices was definitely part of the book I was writing.
You know what they say, you don't kill your darlings, you copy them to a different document and use them later. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Tomer's kind of background. Oh yeah, Zinn is gesturing and scratching himself and being generally irreverent.
I really like how Sibelius was was it like as Sibelius you were automatically like able to really get into world building and like about with like the obsidian sandstorm and like I think you got into character really quickly and that was great.
Yeah, I was about to say the same. That was awesome, really kickstarting the fiction here. I will praise someone who isn't present anymore. The whole blight thing that really added stakes here. So like, yeah, this person will have to get in. They are important, they matter, and I think it was a really cool element to add to the fiction because others can get unmarried, might not, but here there is the ticking clock and necessity for someone like that. So that was cool and that was clever.
And
Let's
sort of
be
the
loud.
and the sort of tension of well, does the blight actually threaten the city, or is that just a world threat?
Yeah, just giving the space to dig into that with our follow-up questions. Yeah, that was cool.
Awesome. If anybody wants, then do you have like general feedback or anything else? And this part, like the wishes part, could also be like, would you, one of the questions that I would have is, would you want to play this again, right?
All right, maybe I'll begin. In terms of design, I really like this game. At the beginning, I was a bit worried that about two things. One, the number of participants that worked out just fine. Two, the fact that rather than judging a single figure and building that figure with a queen, central figure throughout, which is typical with descended from the Queen games, here we have this group that we are fleshing out together, and it worked out really well in my eyes because everyone got time to flesh out these characters. We had this conflict, okay, but who will drop out? Who will get in with these different modes? Also, there's another thing I really love, this different modes you can pick up. So even if you go through the deck numerous times and get general gist of it with different stakes, whether or not like all or no one, this will drastically change the play, and I think that's awesome. I would definitely play this again. I had a lot of fun participating in this.
I like how flexible this is, like in terms of setting. Like I definitely would try playing this again. Like I can see this going in so many different directions.
Yeah, I think I've read but not played For the Queen, but I liked having the little more directed setting building at the beginning. I guess one thing just in this format, I felt like the clarification of when we're waiting for the next person to pick the question was a little bit confusing sometimes, but I think we kind of got into that with any further questions as the hint that yes, we are ready to move on.
A lot of the difficulties that I did have had to do with the technology specifically and not with the game itself. I feel like I wouldn't have if I didn't have to look back and forth and like deal with the mic issues that and if I could I'm generally better at like participating in games when it's in person. It's just easier to like not just see people but like interact for some reason.
Yeah, and also if we were face to face, we'd have been able to like all raise our hands and look at each other and do other things like that. But not only, I think Zoom didn't. We had enough people that Zoom couldn't show us everybody, and not everybody had. Not everybody had video. So it also didn't provide us very many tools to like emote or something like that to say, hey, I'm
The facial cues or something like that, or
yeah,
Yeah,
tag is done or
that's
whatever.
something that I'm starting to see the value of, as it's like my third fully online game, and like third in Gauntlet Con, so it's all Gauntlet Con for me in these 2 days. I'm starting to see the value of having a webcam in your face. I think I have to grab one.
it's
But
definitely
yeah,
a
I
big
hope
part of
that
the social like game of, and you know, like there's totally times when people can't use video cameras, and I think it's great that the community supports that. But it is like as I've played like for a couple of years now, like it's definitely a huge benefit just because you get to see things that you like. It kind of feels almost like a table to some degree. But yeah.
yeah, like I've been forced to here and on like previous games on Gauntlet Con kind of cut in to like laugh at the moment when it's really funny. Just to, hey, I'm still there. I'm emoting. I think it's awesome. So it would be way easier if I could just know from my face. Definitely. So yeah, part of the things that didn't exactly maybe work out as smoothly as it could with this game was due to technology. I think maybe we could look for a different software in the future.
It got a little better over time, but early on, especially when we were going through the rules, and right after that, right in the first couple of questions, I was juggling on my Zoom screen the set of people I could see, which was often just one because I couldn't let the bar take up too much space, the PowerPoint slide in the background, the chat window on top of that where clarifications were being discussed, and the participant list so I could know who people were and what their job titles were. Because I didn't find the text on the face portrait to be enough text to make that relevant. So once I got into the game, there wasn't really much on the back screen I needed to see, so I just had a bunch of windows open.
I'm naturally bad at names and faces in general, so like I feel like that's probably always going to be a problem for me. But one thing that's nice about in-person tables is that you can have like the little cards like they're double-sided that have names and pronouns on them, and so you can continue to look at them without having to ask people or like. But I think some of the problems I do have, like discerning characters from each other, is just me.
Yeah, there's definitely some components in a live game which would ease some of that. Like we definitely do the name tent thing. And you know, you'll see some differences between that and For the Queen, right? Like For the Queen, you don't actually create a character, you know, in any fashion beforehand. Very often you finish the game and you don't even have a name. You know, you're just known as the guard or the, you know, the cook or whatever it is, because that's just what came out in play. I will point, I have a link right here, which is the For the Queen SRD, and it's specifically the games site. So there's a list of other games there, and it has, as well as like this game being listed, one of the other ones that does a really good job is Reunion. So Reunion is written by Yoshi, who's part of our Gauntlet community, and also 2 other friends, Jen Martin and Andy Munich. And you know, you'll see some similarities there, because again, instead of there being a third party like the Queen character, instead you've got this like, we're a group coming together after some time. And you know, there isn't like the voting and the council, or there isn't any of that. It's a different game. But you'll also see how like there's a different dynamic than the base For the Queen game, right? We haven't just replaced the Queen with something else. Instead, the game's actually a little bit different. So that's another one that I've played, which I'm very much into. Cool. Well, again, if you've given me your email in the chat, awesome. You will be getting a, you know, a little survey in the mail. And you can also reach out to me in one of the other ways that I must have reached out to you. There's a couple different venues. But like, I'm still happy to stick around if anyone wants to talk about anything. Otherwise, I will, you know, give you back the rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Gauntlet Con and weekend.
Sure.
Thanks. Thank you all so much for the play. It's past 11 p.m. here, so I'll be jumping.
Good night.
I will send you email through Gauntlet forums. Have a lovely Gauntlet con.
Awesome. And I think there. I only sent that link accidentally to you. Oops. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's why I got it from Selene.
Yeah. So Selene, you threw it. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, this is actually only the second time I've played a game over video chat, so.
Oh, nice.
So I think I'm starting to get used to it. It's like I've only ever video chatted period with like 2 other people.
Oh, I pulled up the other stream, and Maria is starting the game saying, "I'm sorry that people are upside down, and nobody, yourself included, is upside down on the video." So,
really?
StreamYard.
Oh my gosh! I guess that's why they did say it was experimental for mobile devices.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have used, this is my 3rd game Gauntlet Con, and I've used a different software every time, so it's definitely been a learning experience. And like, wait, where's that feature on this one?
I mean, it was a real bummer for the community like earlier this year when Google made all their announcements, because like Hangouts was like the thing, right? It was free. You could automatically have it record to YouTube if you wanted to, all that kind of stuff. And so when Google like shut that down, like everyone's scrambling. Everyone's still trying to figure out what to do. I'm just like, I'm happy that at least I have Zoom from work, so I could just do it. But like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I had Zoom at a previous job, so I'm kind of familiar with it.
All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna hit stop recording here. So goodbye, internet.